Located at Doswell, Virginia, Keene's Dominion is a park owned by Cedar Fair as the moment. The park was originally owned by Taft, who also owned its sister park, Keene's Island. In 1993, it was bought out by Paramount, who owned the park until 2006. In 2006, Cedar Fair would buy out the park, along with Keene's Island, Canada's Wonderland, and Carowinds. As of the moment, there are 13 coasters at the park, with one expected to be open in 2025. This ranking is based off of my opinions, and if you have rankings or anything else you would like to share, please bring it up in the comments. Number 13 is Great Pumpkin Coaster, an E&F Miler kiddie coaster. This is your average kiddie coaster. It has a drop of around 8 feet, then some small bunny hills. This ride is really nothing special for the young kids. It does have decent theming, however, with the trains going into the Great Pumpkin at the end. Number 12, Woodstock Express, a PTC wooden coaster. This ride was originally called Scooby-Doo Ghoster Coaster until 2013 when the ride's name was changed to Woodstock Express. You can find this model at Keene's Island, Carowinds, and Canada's Wonderland. The ride has a height of 35 feet going 35 miles per hour. This ride is a good family coaster with some decent head choppers, but relatively no airtime. Number 11, Anaconda, an Aero multi-looper, opened in 1991. This ride's main flaw is its bizarre and quite frankly terrible layout. You start with a drop into the lake, which is the coolest part of the ride in my opinion. Then you hit a loop and a sidewinder. The sidewinder I found to be painful. Then you hit the mid-course brakes, which is when the layout gets really bad. You aimlessly twist and turn before going into the double corkscrew, which was actually decent. The ride wasn't that rough, surprisingly, as I experienced no headbanging, but I probably wouldn't ride it again. Number 10, Grizzly, a Taft wooden coaster, opened in 1982. This roller coaster for the longest time was my least favorite roller coaster, due to how insanely rough it was. However, after the retracks in 2023 and 2024, I found it to be smooth. This ride is a similar design to the Coney Island Wildcat. The main problem I have with this ride is the fact that it feels forceless. You don't get good airtime except for maybe in the tunnel. This ride, however, almost never has a line as it's in a bizarre location inside of a gift shop. I might ride it every once in a while just for the great location in the woods, though. Number 9. Apple's Apple, a Mock Rides Wild Mouse, opened in 2002 as Ricochet. The thing going for this basic Wild Mouse is the Big First Drop, which is a pro found on the larger scale Mock Rides Wild Mice. The model is the same as Coast Rider at Knott's Berry Farm, so if you ever wanted to ride that without the god-awful restraints, this is one. The ride is only around 50 feet and sits in the back of the park. As for the ride itself, you get some strong laterals on the turns and some tiny drops during the second half. I would say this is one of the better Wild Mice out there. Number 8, Backlot Stunt Coaster, a Premier Rides launch coaster, opened in 2006 as Italian Job. This coaster has a launch of 0 to 40 miles per hour in 3 seconds, which is okay for a family coaster. This ride has a helix right after it that provides some really crazy forces. The rest of the ride is meandering, with the admittedly cool ending of ripping out of the sign. This ride has bad capacity, so I would recommend hitting this one up a bit earlier than other coasters in Jungle Expedition. Number 7, Racer 75, a PTC Woody. Opened in 1975 as Robo Yell. This ride is the only dueling coaster at Keene's Dominion, and it packs a decent punch. The ride is around 85 feet tall, around 56 miles per hour, and it's sort of an out and back ride. The ride opened with the park, which is pretty cool. The park does good work to keep it running smoothly, and for a long time the trains also went backwards. It's not the most forceful, and at most it packs some decent floater airtime, but it's a fun experience that, if not having a long line, you should get on. Number 6, Reptilian, a Mock Rides bobsled, opened in 1988 as Avalanche. This ride is unique as it is one of 3 bobsled coasters in America. This ride isn't on the track, which makes for a way more thrilling experience than you think. You go up the chain lift, then go through turns, and it feels like the track is getting closer to falling out the longer you ride. The ride doesn't pack much of a thrill, but it's extremely fun, especially for a family coaster. Although I really wish they brought back the original theme, as even though the new theme fits, it looks a lot less good than the original theming with the white. Number 5, Toon Beedly, an SNES 4D free spin, opened in 2022. This is an average 4D free spin, albeit smaller model than the ones at Six Flags. The ride spins freely, as the model suggests, and at points it can feel wild. The last time I rode this, I was pointed to the ground on one of the drops to the next set of hills, which definitely felt like a miniature version of X2. This coaster is just fun and a good supporting coaster. Number 4, Flight of Fear, a Premier Rides relaunched coaster. Opened in 1996 as Outer Limits Flight of Fear. This coaster has a really fun launch, some decent inversions, and a fun theme in the dark. I've not been on the outdoor ones of these models, but I have heard that the originally indoor layout makes for good head choppers. One big problem I have had on this coaster, however, is the rattle. The back has a noticeable rattle that took me out of the experience, but it is still a fun ride. Number 3, Dominator, a B&M floorless coaster, opened at Geauga Lake, then relocated to Keen's Dominion in 2008. This ride is the longest floorless coaster and has one of the biggest loops of all time. This coaster has a fun first half in the loop and the Cobra roll, then it has a twister second half with multiple corkscrews. This coaster is just fun. The mid-course breaks before the twister sections barely hit, and I keep on getting a better and better ride on this. Not really much I can complain about, just that with the B&M Ween coaster opening next year, the park will hopefully have an awesome Mount Rushmore. Number 2, Project 305, an Intamin Giga coaster. Opened in 2010 as Intimidator 305. Okay, this is where I have to start ranting. This is one of Cedar Fair's last creations with Intamin, and man did they end it out with a bang. This coaster provides us such a punch. The original first turn was so intense people were blacking out on it. This coaster pulls around 5.5 Gs, which is insane. This ride makes me gray out every single time. The trim brakes before all the switchbacks are the main problem. I get why they have them there, but they're such a buzzkill. Another problem I have is the restraints. While they are certainly better than the hard over-the-shoulder restraints that the original cars had, these aren't the greatest, as all the switchbacks kind of hurt in the back. Still, one of the greatest coasters ever, but not even the greatest in the park. Number 1, Twisted Timbers, an RMC hybrid opened in 2018. This is incredible. So much love was put into this layout that was originally Hurler. So much care. So much airtime. Keen's Dominion didn't have a good airtime machine, but now, thanks to this, they do. Every bit is ejector airtime. You get so much airtime, every second is falling out of your seat and slamming back into it, in the best way possible. Is this better than Project 305? Yep. This is one of my favorite coasters, if not my favorite coaster of all time. P.S. I haven't ridden Steel Vengeance Velocicoaster or most coasters on the West Coast. Please don't rage. Anyways, that's it. Comment if you want any more coaster rankings or any other coaster content.